So, watching women's college basketball, it's very clear just how important Lisa Bluder has been to the sport of basketball, especially women's basketball, and in basketball in general.
The largest basketball audience in history, with 32.3 million watchers, is on the verge of going extinct. The future generation of women's basketball is being discreetly destroyed by a coaching catastrophe. Superstars as Caitlin Clark destroys the Rec Recs under Lisa BL's supervision. Other skills from previous generations are being overlooked. 90% of innovative athletes, in actuality, never realized their full potential. After just 3 minutes of gameplay, a star player was benched. Your favorite rising star might be the next. The basketball world is about to blow apart, and what I'm going to tell you will alter your entire perspective on the sport's future.
Because Caitlin Clark right now, obviously, she is the star of basketball, men's or women's. If you are, debate a wall. She is the star of basketball. And the thing is, when it comes to Caitlin Clark, is that the reason why she blew up is because of Iowa.
Lisa Bluder saw a player who had the potential to completely transform women's basketball when she first watched Caitlin Clark play. But here's what's really intriguing. She saw something that most coaches still don't understand. Bluder accomplished something that nearly no other instructor would have done. She saw this unusual gift and, rather than attempting to correct her, created a whole system around her.
And if you guys look back, there are tweets from 2021 of college basketball being like, why is Caitlin Clark being ignored? Why is everyone just focused on Paige Beckers? Caitlin Clark has been as good. Caitlin Clark should be better. And when Caitlin Clark didn't get nominated for Player of the Year, there was so much uproar. They gave her co-freshman of the year, even though Paige won Player of the Year outright, but didn't win Freshman of the Year outright, which is mad.
Let's discuss what it truly means for women's basketball. At the moment, there is an amazing scenario where a coach's choice to encourage creativity rather than stifle it has completely changed the game. We're talking about regular season games attracting millions of viewers, breaking all previous records, and Clark's games are now attracting Super Bowl level attention.
Look at this and it's like, you can't do this. Showing them videos of Caitlin Clark back in 2021. The difference is that obviously the better they got, the more fans she got, and she became arguably one of the biggest stars in sports.
However, there is a darker side to this story that is currently unspoken about. Coaches nationwide are taking players with the same kind of unique talent and attempting to force them into inflexible systems that eliminate everything that makes them unique, which is the exact opposite of what Bluder did.
It's so important that Lisa Bluder was Caitlin Clark's coach, because if Caitlin Clark could have gone somewhere else, and we don't know about Caitlin Clark. So this is Lisa Bluder talking about Caitlin Clark.
She has, raised the excitement of our sport. There's no doubt. Just because she does things in a different way than anybody else can do. Plus, she has all the intangibles. She's a great student. She's a great role model. She does everything. She loves being that role model.
Take Malaysia full WY at South Carolina. Here's a player who might be the most electrifying talent since Caitlin Clark. When she gets the ball, magic happens. She's got this incredible ability to make plays that leave everyone in the gym speechless, the kind of moves that make highlight reels go viral. But what's happening to her? She's barely seeing the court 3 minutes in a crucial game. 3 minutes. And why? Because she doesn't fit the system. Think about that for a second. We're in an era where women's basketball is finally getting the attention it deserves, largely because of players who break the mold, who play with flair and creativity. Yet we've got coaches who are still stuck in this outdated mindset where control is more important than creativity. Let me break down why this is such a massive problem. When Caitlin Clark first arrived at Iowa, she made this bold statement about taking the team to the Final Four. People laughed. They thought she was being unrealistic, but Bluder didn't shut her down. Instead, she channeled that confidence, that ambition, and built something revolutionary around it. Now, compare that to what's happening with other talented players. We're seeing coaches who would rather have a player averaging 3 points per game but playing within the system than let a creative talent flourish. It's like having a Ferrari and insisting on driving it like a minivan because that's what the driver's manual says you should do. The really frightening part, this isn't just about one or two players. This is a systemic issue that's threatening to derail the future of women's basketball just when it's finally getting the recognition it deserves. We're at this crucial tipping point where the sport could either embrace what makes it special and unique or retreat back into the safe, predictable patterns that kept it in the shadows for so long. Let's talk about what Caitlin Clark would look like under a different coach if she'd ended up with someone who insisted on teaching her The right way to play, we might never have seen those logo 3s, those no-look passes, those moments that make people fall in love with the game. Instead, she might have been relegated to being just another spot-up shooter, her special talents buried under layers of proper basketball. And that's exactly what's happening to players like FW right now. When she gets on the court, she does things that make you say wow, behind the back moves, crossovers that break ankles, passes that shouldn't be possible. But instead of celebrating that creativity, her coaches are trying to reel her in. They're treating her natural instincts like problems that need to be fixed, rather than gifts that need to be nurtured. This goes beyond just style of play. We're talking about the very soul of women's basketball. The sport is at a crossroads, and the decisions being made right now by coaches and programs across the country will determine its future. Will we see more players like Caitlin Clark who are allowed to push the boundaries and show us what's possible, or will we continue to see talented players forced to suppress their natural abilities in favor of playing the right way? The irony is that the old school coaches think they're protecting the game, but they're actually holding it back. They're so focused on avoiding mistakes that they're missing the bigger picture. Indeed, a player like Fulway may occasionally make a mistake while doing something amazing, but Caitlin Clark has shown that the benefits of allowing creative individuals to be themselves much exceed the risks. Take a look at the figures. When Clark performs, arenas sell out. TV ratings set new benchmarks. The explosion of social media. She isn't just playing basketball. She's making memories that go beyond the game, and she is able to do this because her coach recognizes that sometimes you have to let your stars shine, even if it means they might make mistakes along the way. However, at the moment, some WNBA coaches would bench Caitlin Clark for playing her natural game because she doesn't fit some predetermined idea of how the game should be played. This mentality isn't just affecting individual players, it's sending a clear message to young players watching the game. This is where things get really interesting. Caitlin Clark's success isn't just about one player, it's evidence of what happens when you let talent flourish instead of forcing it into a box. However, across women's basketball, we're seeing the opposite approach, and the consequences could be devastating for the sport's future. If you conform or express yourself, you'll be labeled as undisciplined. Try something spectacular, and you'll find yourself on the bench. Dawn Staley is unquestionably a successful coach. Her record speaks for itself, but when it comes to managing creative guards like Malaysia FY, there is a fundamental disconnect. It's not that Staley is a bad coach, rather, it's that her system isn't designed to maximize the potential of players who think outside the box. For example, in a recent game where South Carolina lost with full WY sitting on the bench for all but 3 minutes, this player has the kind of natural talent that makes highlight reels write themselves. But because she doesn't fit the traditional point guard mold, she's watching games rather than altering them. The parallel with Caitlin Clark is striking. If Clark had ended up in a similar system, we might never have seen what she could have done. Instead of serving as the face of basketball, not just women's basketball, but basketball in general. The real danger for women's basketball at the moment is that players like Clark and FW are being told to tone it down, to play it safe, to fit the system, even though she may have just been another player trying to fit into someone else's idea of how the game should be played. Every time one of these players is benched for trying something spectacular, the sport loses a little bit of its magic. Let's examine what makes players like Clark and FW so special. They are not just athletes, they are artists. When Clark pulls up from the logo, she's not just taking a shot, she's making a statement about what's possible in basketball. When Fulway throws a behind-the-back pass in traffic, she's showing us a new way to watch the game. Too many coaches view these flashes of genius as dangers that must be avoided rather than as talents that must be developed. They are so intent on reducing errors that they are prepared to forego the spectacular. It would be like telling Van Gogh to stick to painting houses since it is safer than making masterpieces. When Caitlin Clark performs, people don't simply watch, they fill arenas and take to social media. The numbers don't lie. They tell their friends about what they witnessed, and she's attracting new fans to women's basketball because she plays it her way rather than safe. She is evidence that when you allow talent to express itself, incredible things happen naturally. But for every Caitlin Clark who discovers her Lisa Bleer, there are players like Fulway who are trapped in systems that don't know how to handle their gifts. These players must make the difficult decision to adopt a style that minimizes their innate abilities or risk being branded as unruly, and watching the success of players like Clark has demonstrated that there is a sizable audience out there eager for thrilling, creative basketball. But if coaches continue to place more emphasis on control over creativity, they run the risk of losing that momentum. From the bench, this is about more than just playing time or individual statistics. It's about the future of women's basketball. The development of every young player watching is harmed when a player like FY is benched for playing with flair. It sends a message to all of them that being different is risky, that creativity is a liability, and that the safest path is the only path. The irony is that many of these coaches likely believe they are acting in the best interests of their players and the sport by prioritizing teaching discipline and fundamentals over allowing for creative expression, but they are overlooking an important detail. The best players are frequently the ones who break the mold. Take NBA players like Steph Curry, who revolutionized basketball by doing things that traditional coaches would have benched them for. If Curry had been forced to play traditional basketball instead of being allowed to revolutionize the three-point shot, women's basketball would be at a crossroads right now. The solution is simple, but it requires courage on the part of coaches to embrace what makes each player unique, rather than trying to force everyone into the same system. It means acknowledging that sometimes a spectacular failure is better than a safe success because those spectacular moments are what attract fans to the game. The reason women's basketball has never been more popular, exciting, or relevant is because Lisa Bluder recognized that Caitlin Clark had a unique skill set and, rather than trying to change her, changed her system to maximize those abilities. However, this isn't just about Caitlin Clark or Malaysia FW. It's about every player who has ever been told to stop trying fancy passes, stop taking deep threes, or stop playing with joy because it doesn't fit someone's idea of proper basketball. It's about the sport's future and whether it will embrace what makes it unique or go back to your comfortable mediocrity. The WNBA should be keeping an eye on Clark as she gets ready to join the league. The question is not only where she will play, but also whether the coaches will allow her to play the way that has made her the most famous person in basketball, or will they try to fit her into the systems that are in place. Since young players around the nation are currently observing what happens to creative talents like Clark and FW, the answer to that issue might have a significant impact on the future of women's basketball as they decide if it is preferable to be exceptional or safe. Whether originality or conformity is rewarded in basketball, this goes beyond victories and losses. It concerns whether women's basketball will take advantage of this opportunity to grow into something genuinely exceptional, or if it will be held back by outdated ideas. Caitlin Clark's career has demonstrated to us what can happen when talent is allowed to thrive and how players like Malaysia are treated. FWI demonstrates to us how quickly that promise can be squandered and how quickly time is running out. Women's basketball has never received more attention, momentum, or growth potential, but taking advantage of this opportunity calls for having the guts to let players be who they are, to value creativity over conformity, and to acknowledge that sometimes the most beautiful basketball doesn't look like what the coaching manual says. The future of basketball for women is uncertain. The answer to that question will influence basketball for generations to come. What Lisa Bluder did with Caitlin Clark wasn't just good coaching, it was a blueprint for the future of women's basketball. The question now is whether other coaches will have the wisdom and courage to follow that blueprint, or whether they'll continue to paint by numbers while masterpieces sit on their bench. Will we see more Caitlin Clark's players who challenge our perception of what's possible on a basketball court, or will we continue to see creative talents suppressed in favor of safe, predictable basketball?